Hello everyone, I am Sanjay Gupta. I welcome you on Sanjay Gupta Tech School. I hope everybody is doing good and as you know, this is day 62 of Salesforce Learning Bootcamp and this week we are learning integration with Ankit. So today we are having part 3 of integration. So some more concepts and functionalities Ankit will be demoing you. So welcome Ankit on the channel and please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hey Sanjay, thank you for having me on this platform. A quick introduction about me. My name is Ankit Jain. I do have more than 10 plus years of experience in the Salesforce ecosystem, where I worked as a Salesforce architect. Moreover, I am also a certified Salesforce instructor too. In addition to that, I also conduct the corporate trainings where I have conducted around 30 plus corporate trainings for the different corporates on the different topics, including the admin, PD1, PD2, integration, sales cloud, service cloud, and few more. Moreover, I am also very much active on the different Salesforce communities, including the Stack Exchange as well as the Dev community too. That's all from my side. To you, Sanjay.
Okay, this is great. So, I hope everybody got to know how much experience Ankit is having and what kind of training he has done already. So I am happy like he's on this platform and sharing his knowledge on integration. Now, if you want to become a part of community where lots of beginners and experienced folks are connected, and you want to discuss your doubts, so you can join this Telegram group, and you can become part of the community and you can discuss your doubts. Okay, so moving forward, like this is week 17, I guess. So Ankit, can you please move? Yeah. So this is week 17, and we are learning integration. So this week we'll be having only 3 sessions, and next week also we'll be having 3 more sessions on integration, right? So these 2 weeks are dedicated for integration, and after completion of integration, we'll be having a development project, and after that we'll jump on the Lightning Web component and Lightning Aura component sessions, right? So do follow Sanjay Gupta Tech School on YouTube, Telegram, Instagram, and LinkedIn so that you can receive all timely notifications, and all the important links are available in the video's description, right? So share the link with as many people as you can, because all the sessions are happening free of cost, and every week we are having sessions, and I have also planned like in future I will be inviting more experts related to different clouds, right? So share Sanjay Gupta Tech School YouTube link with as many people as you can so that they all can be benefited. So with this, I pass mic to Ankit so that he can share his knowledge on integration and continue the session. Over to you, Ankit.
Uh, Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you for helping the community in all the possible way.
Yep.
Again, I welcome you all. Good morning, good afternoon, based on your geographic location. So, till yesterday, we covered what is remote site setting, what is name credential, what is connected callback, right? Or sorry, what is connected app. In addition to that, we also talked about few of the APIs. We talked about how we can perform the authentication as well, right? Now, in today's session, we'll be talking more specifically about the REST API. Okay, if you see this diagram basically represents a kind of a C where we do have the different types of APIs available in the Salesforce, right? In Salesforce, we do have the more than 10 or 15 plus different types of API, right? Like few of them are the REST API, SOAP API, Bulk API, and the PubSub API. In addition to that, we do have the APIs like the Metadata API, Analytics API. We do have the Einstein related API. We do have some platform specific APIs as well. But in this bootcamp, we are specifically covering those APIs which deals with the data. So we have decided to cover the 4 different APIs which directly interacts with the Salesforce data. That is nothing but the REST API, SOAP API, Bulk API, and the PubSub API. So today we'll be focused more on the REST API of the Salesforce. Again, we already briefed about the REST web service. Now we are moving toward the REST API. What is REST API basically? REST API is kind of a simple and the powerful web service which works on the different RESTful principles. REST API is a simple and powerful web service which work on the different RESTful principle. Now, there are different RESTful principles which are available with the help of which the REST API works. Few of them are, whenever you have to work on the REST API, you need a URI. You need the different REST methods. REST API is always stateless. Again, this is a very important point, folks, to remember. Whenever you are dealing with the REST API is a stateless. What it mean by the stateless? For example, let's say you are making a request from the client to the server, right? Whatever the request that you are making to the client will not save your request, right? Or client will not save your request in any form on their server. So every time, whenever you have to make the request, you have to send all the data in your request to get the response from the server. As for the REST API, we use the HTTPS protocol, which is again a stateless protocol, and that is the reason RESTful or the REST API always follows the stateless structure. Moreover, all the different functionalities that we do have in the Salesforce. For example, if you take the Salesforce objects or the Salesforce field, all these fields or all those Salesforce objects, they all are REST enabled, right? You do not have to write down any additional logic to get the data from the Salesforce, directly from the Salesforce object. Salesforce have already exposed their objects and fields as the REST enabled, so you can directly invoke, make an API call and access that data. How to do that we will see in a while. We already discussed REST API does support the both XML as well as the JSON format. Again, next few point about the REST API is a kind of a lightweight, right? And because of this lightweight structure, REST API is more recommended whenever you are creating the lightweight applications. For example, if you are creating the applications for the mobiles or for the web apps, where the processing speed is a key, you can go for the REST API. So the way REST API works is, in the REST API, you always send one request and you can expect the response from the server. But while sending the request, you have to specify the different resources as well as you have to mention the different methods. Whenever you are making the request from the REST API, you have to specify the different REST resources. Moreover, you have to also specify the different methods. Now, what are the different REST resources that we have to specify? The first REST resource that you have to specify is the resource URI. Resource URI is basically the endpoint from which you are expecting the response. So whenever you are using the REST resource, the first thing that you have to go and define is your URI. That is nothing but the endpoint. We already discussed in the previous session what is endpoint, how to find out the endpoint. As I said, every documentation, they do provide the endpoint that you have to hit. Salesforce is again not an exception. Salesforce have their own documentation where they are providing the different endpoints that you have to hit. In addition to that, you have to specify the HTTP methods. These parameters are common across any integration. If you are doing the integration from the Salesforce or from any other technology, you have to define all those parameters. Like first is the endpoint, second is the HTTP method. We do have the 4 types of HTTP methods available. First is the GET, second is the POST, third is the PATCH, and fourth is the DELETE. GET we used whenever we have to get the data from the third-party system. POST we use whenever we have to write the data or insert the data in the third-party system. PATCH we used whenever we have to update the data in the third-party system. And the DELETE we used whenever we have to delete the data from the third-party system. As I mentioned earlier, these methods are common across the web standard. Either the Oracle is implementing the integration or the Salesforce is implementing the integration. They do have to follow these rules while implementing the integration. They have to use the GET method to get the data. They have to use the POST method to insert the data. They have to use the PATCH method to update the data. Moreover, they have to use the DELETE method to delete the data. Mandatory. Next thing that we do have here is the request header. In the request header, we have to specify the details in the mapped form. For example, in the request header, you will specify the authentication details. What kind of authentication that you want to do, right? Whether you are doing the bearer authentication or you are doing the API key authentication, what kind of authentication that you have to do, you have to go and specify in the request header. Moreover, in what form you are expecting the response. As I said, the REST API, it deals in both XML and the JSON. Moreover, it also deals in the plain text form or in the HTML form as well. So in what form you are expecting the data, you have to go and specify in the request header that we specify as the content type. Moreover, there are few additional parameters that we also set in the request header, considering the timeouts and different things. I will show you what are the different headers that are applicable in the Salesforce 2. And the next parameter that we do have here is the request body. Again, request body is not a mandatory parameter. However, if you are using the post or you are using the patch, in these scenarios, we have to specify the request body. Request body is not required whenever you are using the get or whenever you are using the delete. However, it is mandatory to specify the request body. In the request body, you will put all those details which you have to send to the third-party system. Request body is mandatory whenever you are making the post request as well as you are making the batch request. Let me navigate you to the few important documentation that we do have in the Salesforce. Let me exit my full screen. The first thing that I am navigating you, again, in the cheat sheet, we do have the information available regarding the REST API. I will also navigate you the complete documentation, but before we deep dive into the full documentation, which have lots of information, I will take this documentation first. As I said, REST API, for the REST API, what we have to specify, we have to specify the different resources. The resources is the URI as well as the HTTP method. We do have these different types of HTTP methods available, right? All the resources that we are accessing using the REST API, they will be accessed over the HTTP. And as it will be accessed over the HTTP, REST API is a stateless. REST API is the stateless. Moreover, REST API does support different types of authentication. It does support the API key authentication. It does support the OAuth authentication as well. Moreover, REST API deals with the different types of data, JSON as well as XML. In case you are not specifying the content type that you are expecting, JSON is the default whenever you are dealing with the REST API. So if you have to go and perform the operations on the data, if you have to go and perform the operations on the data, this is how you have to go and pass the endpoint. So this is your endpoint basically, right? If you see the endpoint whenever you have to interact with the data is kind of a common till here, where the first you have to specify the instance. Instance means your Salesforce org, instance URL. For example, if this is my org, this is my instance. Till this lightning.force.com, this is my instance. Till here, I will get the instance. So the first thing that we have to specify is the instance, followed by the salesforce.com, followed by the services, and followed by the data. This is your base URL. This is your base URL. Followed by that, you have to also specify the version. So till version will be your base URL. If you go and refer any type of endpoint, till here, you will find the common. That till version, you will find the common thing. So what is your endpoint? Your endpoint is instance.salesforce.com, followed by the services, followed by the data. If you follow this documentation, you will see that they have explained the different parameters in very detail. Right? Again, we'll put the link in the video detail so that you can access that documentation easily. Again, the next, as I said, whenever we are dealing with the REST API, we have to set the different types of headers. And this is the list of headers that we can set. Again, based on the integration documentation, you have to figure it out what type of headers that you have to set. Right? So in case you are dealing with the specific content type, then you can go and specify the content type here. So whenever you are setting the header, you have to always set the header in the map form. How the map form works, like in the map, we do have the key and we do have the value. Similarly, the REST API headers works in the same way. Here we do have the key and we do have the value. Every time we do have the key and we do have the value. These are the different REST headers that we do have. Based on the documentation, you have to go and set all these different headers. In case you are accepting the response in the form of XML, then you go and put the application as XML. In case you are sending the request in the form of JSON, then you can go and put the content type as JSON. Right? In case you have a specific authorization, then you go and specify the authorization here. Moreover, you can also specify the authentication as well. Right? So these are the different lists of headers that is supported by the Salesforce.
Ankit, by any chance, can we share this link in the chat right away? Because folks are saying like they are not able to read the content properly. So if you can,
let me paste it to you.
Yeah. So
okay.
I will share.
Let me figure it out a way how we can do that.
You can just paste in the chat of this Zoom. So yeah, got
Sure.
it.
Okay, let's move forward. So where we are making a request, as I said, we have to go and define the different HTTP methods as well. And we talked about this HTTP method, get method, head method, patch method, post method, as well as the delete method. As I said, we use the get method whenever we have to retrieve the information. Right? We use the head method whenever we have to retrieve the resource metadata. We use the patch whenever we have to update the record. We use the post whenever we have to insert the new record. Similarly, we use the delete whenever we have to perform the delete operation. Similarly, we use the delete whenever we have to perform the delete operation. Again, I am repeating, whatever the HTTP methods, whatever the head that I am talking about, it is not specific to the Salesforce. Any type of integration, any system is doing, they have to follow these rules. These are the rules defined by the web standards. Okay. Now, whenever you are sending the request, you might get the different types of response codes from the system. Whenever you are sending the request, you will get the different types of response code from the system. Right? Again, there is a complete list of the response code. In this documentation, they have covered only few. Right? If you want to have the list of the complete response code, you can go here and you can put here HTTP response status code. You will get the complete link either from the Mozilla or from the Chrome. You can see here, we do have the complete list of the status of the response code. The response code starts from the number 100 and it ends with 600. For each response code, we do have the specific message. For each response code, we do have the specific message. Most of the folks, when you observe the web, you might have heard about the error response code as 404, right? That what the 404 says. 404 says that the request not found or the resource not found. You can see here from here, this 404 is coming up. That the server is not available or the request is not available. Right? Each and every response code will be logical. In this documentation, they have shared the few response code like the 300, 400, 401, 403, and 404. How to identify whether you are getting the successful response or not? So successful response we do have in the range of 200 and 299. In case you are getting the response code from the system in this range, that means you are getting the successful response. However, if you are getting the response code in some other range, then basically you are not getting the successful response from the third-party system. Right? Generally, we use this for the informational response, but whenever you are retrieving any request or making any request to the third-party system, we either get the response in this range or we get the response in these ranges. In case the server is not available, then we get this the response in these ranges. Or in case for the client-specific error response, most of the integration teams, they use this kind of a range. So they do have to follow this convention as well whenever they are sending the status code. This documentation is again a rich of information where you do get a complete overview about the REST API. In case you want to complete deep dive into the REST API, what you can do here is you can navigate to this documentation. Again, this is the API guide that Salesforce have provided, where they have specified all the different details about the REST API. They have put here tons of examples that also you can use to practice the REST API as well. They have put about the different architectural guidance, right, that we already talked about. If you guys can go and follow this link, here you can see I talked about the REST resources and the REST request, where we talked about the URI, HTTP methods, headers, and the request body. Right? We talked about the RESTful resources architecture, where I said that the REST API is a stateless. REST API works in the client server mode. With the REST API, we can perform the authentication with the help of OAuth 2.0. This is the complete guide that you can refer to perform in case you want to deep dive into the REST API. But for the starting, I believe this kind of a cheat sheet will be very helpful to get the overview about the REST API. I will also put this link in the chat box so that you guys can follow this link and have this link with you too. Sanjay, can you also please paste this link in the chat?
Yeah, sure. I'm just.
Okay. Now, we talked about the REST API. We understand the different terminologies with respect to the REST API. Let's move into the practical mode now. What we will do now is we will hit these different APIs that Salesforce have offered with the help of a tool called Postman. So what is Postman basically? Postman is a kind of a application, or you can say it's a kind of a tool that is used in different organizations to test your APIs. Whenever you are creating the API, if you want to test your API from any third-party system, Postman is one of the famous tools that most of the organizations are using. In Salesforce, we can also test the different APIs that Salesforce offer with the help of this tool called Postman. In case your organization does not have a Postman, Salesforce also provided the alternative, that is the Workbench. However, Salesforce strictly mentioned that whenever we have to test the API over the Workbench, also we should go and use the Postman, because whatever the platform APIs that Salesforce is developing, they are exposing all these APIs on the Postman itself. If you go over this, right, Postman, there are more than 25 million registered users who are using the Postman, and on the Postman you do have more than 75,000 open APIs available. In the 65,000, we do have the open APIs available from the Salesforce as well. So how to use the Postman? Again, it's a free tool. You do not have to pay a single penny to download the Postman. Postman is available in 2 different versions. It is available in the web version, and moreover, it is also available in the desktop version as well. So what you have to do, you just have to go and search the Google, that is the Postman download, and here you will get the link. As I said, Postman is available in 2 versions. In case you want to use the web version, you can directly sign in here and started using the web version. Again, quick note, as of now, the web version is not stable. The Postman team is still working on their web version. The consistency is not there in the web version. So for the time being, I'll recommend that you guys go and download this Postman tool from here. You just have to, in the Google, you have to search for the Postman. You will get the first link to download the Postman. You just have to click on this button and the Postman tool will be downloaded for you. You have to install the Postman software the way you install any other software. You just have to go and click on next and install the Postman. After that, you have to go and create the account on the Postman tool. The way we sign up for the Salesforce developer org, the way we sign up for any other account like the LinkedIn or the Instagram, similarly, you have to also go and make a sign up to the Postman application. Basically, what you are doing is you are creating the you are creating your account on the Postman. After that, if you go and launch the Postman, this is how the Postman will come up. After that, if you go and launch the Postman, this is how the Postman will come up. Now, the question is how we can integrate this Postman tool with my org so that I can perform the integration. Now the question is how we can integrate with this Postman tool with my org so that, here is my org, this is my org, so that I can perform the integration. Salesforce have put a very good trailhead document with which you can easily connect the Postman to your org. Salesforce have put a very good document with the help of which you can easily connect the Postman as a tool with your org. Although I will be showing you in live how we can do that. But in case you guys are stuck somewhere while doing the integration or while practicing, you can go over this Trailhead module and you can follow the steps. They have given the steps point by point, what all steps that you have to follow to make the connection of your postman with your org. So the first thing that you have to do here is you have to go here and create your workspace. What is the first thing that you have to do? You have to go here and create your workspace. So to create the workspace, you have to navigate to this workspace tab.
Sorry to interrupt, Ankit. Can we zoom in? Like text size is very.
No, the postman, I'm not sure whether we can.
Okay. Can you try Control Plus maybe if it works?
Yeah, I tried.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it worked.
Okay. Yeah,
okay.
Now it is better.
Okay. So what you have to do, you have to navigate to the workspace. In the workspace, you have to take the option of the create workspace. That is the first step that you have to do. So let's go and create the workspace here. Oh, it is not launching. Right. So what you have to do, here you can go and create any names to the workspace. So let's say I am giving the name to this workspace as integration demo. I am giving the names to the workspace as the integration demo. As I am creating this workspace only for me, I am selecting the personal here. In case you want to share the APIs with your org, you can go and set up the team as well. I do not have a team here. You have to first go and set up your team in the Postman. Again, that's a more Postman concept. For the time being, I'm just selecting the visibility as personal and creating my workspace. After you have created the workspace, now you can see here, your workspace is available here. In case you missed your workspace, you can go here and you can just select the workspace from here and your workspace will be launched. So this is the first step that you have to do. As a part of next step, what you're supposed to do here is you will go here and search for the Salesforce developers. What you will do, you will go and search here for the Salesforce developers, or you can search for the Salesforce platform API. In our scenario, platform API will be more logical. You can have the Salesforce platform API available. In case you guys are working on the B2C cloud or the B2B cloud or the marketing cloud, accordingly, you can select the type of API that we have to deal with. But here, as we are dealing with the core platform, I am selecting here the Salesforce platform API. And what I have selected here, they are the Salesforce platform API. So this is the different list of APIs that are available from the Salesforce. This is the different list of APIs that are available from the Salesforce. I have selected here the platform API. Now, the next thing that you have to do here is, again, this is the API offered by the Salesforce. We cannot directly modify this API. So what we have to do here is we have to clone these APIs for our own usage. We cannot modify directly this API. So what we have to do here is we have to clone this API for our usage. So how we will clone that? For example, here I have to clone this platform API. I will go to the end and I will see these 3 dots here. You just have to go and click on these 3 different dots. Here you will get the option called create a fork. In Postman, whenever we have to perform the clone operation, basically what we are doing is we are creating the fork. So I am selecting the option here called create fork. Here you can go and give any label to the fork. Right? Let's say I am giving the label to the fork here as the integration demo fork. And where you are creating this fork? You are creating this fork in the workspace that we have created in the step 1. Where you are cloning this? You are cloning this in the workspace that we have created in the step 1. Again, I am repeating. First, you have to go and create the workspace. After that, here you have to go in the global search and search for the Salesforce developers. After that, you go and select the Salesforce developers or the Salesforce platform API. After that, what you have to do, you have to just go and click on these 3 dots. Click on create a fork. You will be on this screen. So here I am naming this fork as a integration demo fork. Right? And click on the fork collection. Now what you have done here is in your workspace, you have copied the APIs provided by the Salesforce. In your workspace, what you have done, you have copied the APIs provided by the Salesforce. So Salesforce is providing these different types of API to us. Salesforce is providing these different types of APIs to us. For today, we are discussing only the REST API. For today, we are discussing only the REST API. But in case if you guys want to explore any other APIs, right, you can definitely go and explore these APIs or the different platform APIs from here. Now, what we have done, we have downloaded this and we have put this on our local workspace. Now the next step that we have to do here is, we have to connect the Postman with my org. Now, the next step that we have to do here is, we have to connect this Postman to my org. How we will do that? To do that, you will go to this authorization tab. By default, we are on this overview tab. So I'm selecting this on the parent folder. And after being on the parent folder, I am navigating to this authorization tab. Now here you will see the different details. What type of APIs, what type of authentication this platform, Postman is using. The Postman is using the OAuth 2.0 authentication. What type of authentication that it will use to connect to the Salesforce? It will use OAuth 2.0 authentication. Again, you do not have to disturb anything. You have to make sure that the header prefix is there. You do not have to disturb anything. Just have to scroll down in the bottom. You do not have to disturb anything. You just have to scroll down into the bottom and click on this button called Get New Access Token. You just have to click on this button called Get New Access Token. As soon as you click on this button, a request will come to your Salesforce org. In case you guys are doing it for the first time, you will get a pop-up or you will get a pop-up block-up from the Chrome, right? So you have to make sure that you are allowing this pop-up block-up to this request should come up successfully. Okay, I observed in my past trainings that whenever we perform the integration for the first time, on most of the machines, we get this pop-up block-up. Again, it's completely up to the Chrome version that you are using, but just an FYI. What you have to do here now is, you just have to click on Allow. You just have to go and click on Allow. Now you can see here, your authorization is done successfully, and you have to click on the Open Postman from here. Your call is authenticated. That means your authentication is successfully, and you just have to go and use this browser. Again, at the back end, it is still doing the authentication, or you can see here, I am getting the option here as authentication complete. Now, automatically after the 3 seconds, it will move to the next screen. Automatically after the few seconds, it will move to the next screen. You can see here at the back end, what the Salesforce is doing whenever we are making this integration. What the platform have done the automation is, they are sending here the client ID as well as the client secret key, right? So what you have to do here is, from this screen, you have to copy this instance URL. From this screen, what you have to do is, you have to copy this instance URL. So I'm just putting the copy here. What I have done, I just make the copy here of my instance URL. And without fail, what we have to do here is, we have to click on this button, that is the use token. I have copied this instance URL. You can put this copied instance URL on your notepad or on your sticky note, wherever you want. And after that, without fail, what you have to do here is, you have to click on this use token. Now, if you again follow this authorization, you can see here the different types of parameters are populated. Like your access token is populated. This is the OAuth URL that it has been used, right? This is the OAuth this is the authentication URL that has been used. Your client ID is populated. Just hover over it and you can see the different values, right? You just hover over it and you can see the different values. Now, what we have done here is, we have copied the token. This is the token basically that we got from the Salesforce. Okay, we do not have to again do anything. We have copied the instance URL. Now the next step that we have to do here is, we have to go to this variable section. The next step that we have to do here is, we have to go to this variable section and scroll down where you will get the endpoint. You just have to scroll down where you will get the endpoint. What you should do here is go and paste your endpoint in the current value. What you will do here is you will go and paste your endpoint in the current value. And without fail, go and save your changes by hitting the Control S, because as of now the changes are not saved. Whatever the value that we have populated here, it is not saved. So you have to make sure that you are hitting the Control S here so that your changes will be saved. You just without fail, what you have to do here is you just have to use the Control S to save your changes. Any question?
So guys, if you have any question, you can just post your question in the
Right.
chat box so that Ankit can ask. And all the
Let me,
links, yeah, all the important links are already available in the chat box. So you can just copy and have those with you. So we'll wait for 1 or 2 minutes if there are some questions.
right.
So Ankit will be answering. Otherwise, we'll be moving forward. And Ankit, I can see there are few questions if you can see the chat box.
Right.
Previously, people asked some questions.
Right. There's a question from the Fearers that so different REST APIs would ask the different headers. Yes, Fearers. In the documentation, they will specify what all headers that you have to pass. So according to the documentation, you have to go and set the different headers. Rutuka Patil have a question. Can we have a request body in the get method? Again, Rutuka, we cannot have the body in the case of get method because your get method only deals with the URL part. Although you are setting the body, it will be of no use. Deepak, I could not understand your question. What redirection message means? Amar, again, it's again a company to company scenario. Most of the companies, based on my past experience, they don't use the postman. Again, in case they are not, you can also insist them to use because it's a free and open source software that anyone can use for the API testing. And you can also make your point that it is a free software which also Salesforce is recommending for their integration testing. Shivali, again, if you see the postman, that we will see in a while, most of the things are automated. In case you are using the workbench, you have to remember the complete path, you have to remember the complete URL. Moreover, the UI of the workbench is also not friendly. So in case if anyone is asking you to use the workbench, you have to ask for the reason why they are specifically looking for the workbench and not for the postman, right? Because if you log into the workbench, in the workbench also Salesforce have put the notification that we have to use the postman rather than the workbench. What is grant type? I'm not sure where this question is coming up. Again, grant type is nothing but the different types of authentication that we are doing. There are different types of grant type. This is also available, I believe, in the name credential as well. By default, whenever we are making the integration from the postman, it is using the implicit grant type. You can also, in case you have the in case you want to do the integration based on the password, username and password, you can use the password credential as well. In case you want to do the integration based on the PKCE, PKCE is nothing but a primary key. I cannot recall the exact form. In case you want to do the integration with the help of that primary key, then you can use this PKCE. Again, you have to follow the documentation to figure it out what type of grant type that they are supporting. Yes, endpoint URL is the Salesforce org URL. We are directly getting this URL whenever we are making the authorization request. So just to avoid the confusion, we can directly copy that instance URL from the authorization and go to the endpoint and put that endpoint here. Asit, yes, I have not given the Salesforce org username and password because for the demo purpose, I'm already logged in into the org. In case you are not logged in into the org and you are making a request from the postman, then the Salesforce will first ask you to put the username and password, and then it will do the authorization with your org. So yes, you are correct. First, we have to log in into the Salesforce username into the Salesforce org before we go and make the request from the postman. Otherwise, it will be navigating first to the login screen. Sunil, I will come back to the real-time scenarios in a while. Like Postman, if we are using some other platform, then how we can get the client secret and the client token. Again, what you have to do here is, I will also take an example for this most probably in the next week, where we are connecting from one system to another system. And there I will show you how you will get the client key and the client secret. In case, for example, if Oracle is connecting with the Salesforce, then you can get the client ID and the client secret and the token from the connected app Vinay that we discussed yesterday. In case Salesforce is connecting with LinkedIn or Facebook, so like, or the Google or the Gmail, everywhere we do have the option to create the app. So for example, if you have to make the integration with the Gmail, you just have to type down the Google developers and there you will get the option to create the app first, from where you get the client ID and the client secret key. Pratik, callout related question I will take in the next week when we go and talk about the callout. Asit, no, that's a completely wrong statement where you mentioned that integration is nothing but the Salesforce API testing. Integration is not more that. Integration is much more complex. At the start, basically, moreover, it will also be a complex scenario for the most of the architectures too. In integration, there are too many factors that we have to consider. We have just touched the tip of the iceberg as of now, Asit. Can you use existing integration user for the multiple integration if you don't know the password and the security token? Rutuka, you can do that, but Salesforce does not recommend that you should go and reuse the existing integration user for the multiple integration. The reason being, you might have to set the different type of authorization for the different types of integration. So based on your business requirement, you can go and create the different types of integration users and provide the different types of authorization. Okay, now let me quickly show you as we have made the connection, right? Again, I am repeating what we have done. We have clicked on the authorization. We have requested the access token. We got the access token and we have updated the endpoint. This endpoint thing you have to do only once whenever you are making your first connection. Every time you do not have to go and set the endpoint because this will be common every time. However, your token, it will be expired in few, there is a timeout has been set. I have to check the exact parameter where the timeout has been set, but whenever we are using access token, we do have the timeout defined. In case you are keeping the system idle for some time, before you make the integration for the testing, you have to go and get the new access token, right? I believe the access token is not expired now. Let me go and test my few of the APIs. Very first API that I am testing here is the limits API. What this limits API will do? This limits API, it will validate whether what are the different governor limits of your org. What this limits API will do, this limits API will validate what are the different governor limits of your org. Here you can see we do have the different APIs available. How we will understand the usage of each and every API? Again, for that, you have to go and follow the Salesforce documentation. If you follow this REST API developer guide, for which the link is already shared in the chat box, you can see here, we do have the different types of REST APIs available. Let me just zoom again. You can see here, we do have these different types of REST APIs available. According to your requirement, you can go and open any type of REST API. Here we are talking about the limit type of GET API. So let me search here for the limit. Right? So again, if I go to this documentation, you will get the complete details. As I said, for every integration, we have to follow the documentation, right? So this is the, as we are making the integration with the Salesforce is also not an exception. So this is the API that we have to use. So what is the URI that we have to follow? This is the URI that says services/data followed by the version and followed by the limit. So this is our endpoint that we have to use. This API accepts the data in the JSON as well as in the XML form. What type of HTTP method that we have to use? We have to use the GET method. Next thing is, what is the authentication mechanism that we are using? Authorization followed by the bearer token. Authorization is your key. Bearer followed by the token means nothing but your session ID. How to dynamically generate the session ID? Again, we'll talk in detail when we go and connect the two different Salesforce org. In our example for now, we already generated this token by using the OAuth. So we already have this token, right? And when we make this request, we will get the body in this form, right? These are different parameters that we will get whenever we are making the request. So let's go and make this request from the postman. So again, if you navigate this, the advantage with the postman is you do not have to do anything. Everything is configured for you. You just have to make sure that everything is correct. You can see here, we are using the get method as per the documentation. In the documentation, they mentioned about the get method. So we are using this one, right? The format, if you go and follow these headers, as I said, we have to go and set the different headers here. If you follow this, right, these are the different headers that they have set. Authorization, bearer, followed by the token ID. Right? If you again follow this, they are expecting the, again, it is accepting the output in all the different form. In case you are specifying this means you can expecting the output in all the different forms. Right here, as we talked about the JSON and XML, we can expect the output in any different forms here. So these are the different places where you go and set the headers whenever you are using the postman, right? This is your complete URL that we talked about. So we talked about this URI, like /services/data, followed by the version, followed by the /limits, right? This is the one we talked about, /limit. You can see this is our URL till /limits. This is our URL till the /limits, right? We have already configured the endpoint. As you can see, it is coming up correctly. Let's go and send the request by now. You can see here, what is the response code that we are getting? The response code that we are getting is 200. 200 stands for the successful response code. 200 stands for the successful response code. And these are the different limits that we are getting from our org. These are the different governor limits that we are getting from our org. Right? You can see we do have the different types of APIs available. I'll request each one of you in your available time to try to hit different types of APIs. All parameters that you have to pass, you just go over the documentation. Documentation is again very simple. In most of the scenarios, they have also given the use cases as well. For example, let's say I have to count the records. So I'm testing another API now. I'm just using the different APIs. Okay. So what they have to do in this, what the record count API will do. Again, let's say I'm a fresher and I'm completely aware, and I'm not aware what this API will do. So I will go here and look for the record count. So I'm opening the record count API from here. Let's try to understand what this API will do. This is how you have to go and do the self-learning, right? So what this API will do, this API will return you the counts of an object that you are passing, right? What this API will do, this API will return you the count of a record, count of the objects that you are passing. So what you have to do here is, you have to use this endpoint. This is the format. The HTTP method is get. Authorization, bearer token. What all parameters that you have to pass here? You have to go and pass the S objects. What you have to do is, you have to go and pass the S object. Again, if you follow this, they have given an example how you should go and pass the S objects here. They have given an example how you should go and pass the S object here. So here in this URL, they mentioned that we could go and pass the S object as account as contact. For the demo purpose here, they are using another tool that is curl. Like we do have the postman, we do have another tool available that is the curl tool. Okay, for the demo purpose, we have selected the postman because most of the organization do use the postman. But in case your organization is also using the curl, you can go and test the APIs by using the another tool called curl tool as well. So again, I will be going here. This is the method. This is the endpoint. In this method, I have to go and pass the different types of values. You can see here S objects. That is the parameter that I have to pass. Let's say I want to get the record count of the account as well as the contact. So I'm just putting these values here, account as well as contact. They have clearly mentioned in the description, whatever the values that we have to pass, that value will be the comma delimited. Comma delimited means the values will be separated by the comma. And just go and click on the send. You can see here, we are getting the result here. So on my account object, I do have the 13 record. On my contact object, I do have the 20 records. I am getting this count here. Not only that, you can also go and write down the query from here. Not only that, you can also go and write down the query here. Again, you can follow the documentation as I'm aware about this documentation, as I have used this documentation in the past. You have to use this get method. This is the URL, and here you go and define your query. Let's say my query says that select ID, comma, name, comma, industry from account object, where let me get the account object, and here I am getting the 10 records. So I am putting this here, the limit as 10. So here I have put the query and click on set. You can see I am getting the 10 records here, and this is the different record that we are getting. As I requested for the ID, name and industry field, I am getting the ID, name and industry field from the system. You can see here, everywhere I am getting the ID, name and industry. Not only that, you can also go and create the record as well. To create the record, you have to look for the API to create the record. I believe for the creation, we do have the API available in the S object folder, right? Here you can see S object create. With the help of this API, what you can do, you can go and create the record into the system. Again, if you follow this documentation and put here that the create, let's say create record. I just want to make you folks enable so that you guys can go and use the documentation and start writing your own APIs for the testing, right? What this API will do, this API will help you to create the record, right? Again, if you follow this documentation, right? They have directly given an example. I believe here they might have put all those details. You just have to check the different links. They definitely have put all those details, what kind of method that you have to use, right? What kind of parameters that you can pass. They are just given the different examples. But for the time being, as we do have the limited time, let me quickly cover. To create the record, here we have to go and use the post method, right? This is the endpoint that we have to use. Here we have to, in the URL, we have to go and specify the object API name. Let's say I want to go and create the record in the account object. So I am putting the as object API name. That is the account object. Now, while creating the account, I have to go and pass the different types of parameter. So where I will go and pass the parameter in the body, where I will go and pass these parameters in the body. So here I am putting the different parameters. Let's say I am putting here the account create name. I am putting here is account created from the postman. Likewise, you can go and pass the different parameters as well. For example, I have to go and pass the industry. Let's say I am putting here the industry as energy. Another thing that I have to pass, for example, is the rating. Whatever the values that you are putting here on the left hand side, you have to make sure that you are all putting the API names of the account object, because we have to go and create the records in the account object. All these things must be the API name of the account object fields. So here I am putting the rating value as hot. Let's say another thing that I have to pass here, or let's have only 3 for now. You can definitely try out with more than one field. There are lots of examples available here. Not only that, you can also go and create the child records as well. For example, if you have to go and create the contacts with this different attribute, you just have to follow this documentation. There are n number of examples that they have shared, with the help of which you can go and create the multiple records. So what I am doing here is I'm just putting all those details here, right? My parameters is also set, where I put the S object name by name as an account and clicking on the send button. You can see here, for the successful account creation, we are getting the response code as 201. For the successful account creation, here we are getting the response code as 201, right? So we have sent this response and the account has been created. See the output. There's a tab. I have misplaced it. Just let me quickly check. Let me go and, okay, yeah, you can see here, this is the output. This is the ID of the record which is created. The success operation is true and we are not getting any errors. Moreover, if you want to save this request for the future reference, right? Moreover, for example, if you want to save this key and this body for the future reference, that also you can do here. You just have to click on save as an example and you can go and save your API from there, right? So these changes will be saved on your local machine. So this is the example that has been shared and that will be with you always whenever you have to go and hit the same API for some another testing, right? So let's go and validate in our org whether the account has been created or not. So I will go to the accounts tab here and check whether the accounts is created or not. You can see here the account is created here. Account created from the postman. Whatever the values that we have passed, like we have passed the rating value as hot or we have passed the industry value as energy, everything will be available here. You can see rating is available as hot and the industry value that we passed as an energy, it is also available here. This is how you can go and play with the postman by simply following this documentation and simply hitting the different APIs. Only thing that you have to do is you have to just read the documentation, understand the parameters that you have to pass, understand the method that you have to use, and you can directly start using these different APIs. Right? This is how you go and use the postman. This is how you go and integrate your postman with your Salesforce org and perform the testing of the platform APIs that Salesforce have offered. Right? I believe that's all we do have today. Let me quickly take the questions if we do have any. So the first question is, what data we need to collect from other system for callout? Again, Pratik, as I said, we'll talk more about the callouts in another session. So I'm not taking the callouts related question now. Ravi Shankar, if you do not want to share the username and the password with the client to perform the integration, then what you can do here is you can go and create the connected app on your Salesforce org and ask and share the client ID and the client secret key. Yesterday we have covered how to create the connected app and how to access the client ID and the client secret key. You can go and share those details with your client so that they can integrate with your system with the help of auth. Yes, Saket, in the variables tab, all the variables will be auto-populated except the endpoint. You have to manually go and populate the endpoint as your instance URL. So Ravi Shankar have a question by sharing the client secret and the token, which you will get while creating the... Okay, so Vinay already answered that. Sarla, I didn't get your question in the key and value, what we can pass. If you elaborate your question more, will be helpful. This is how we have covered. Ready, Rami? This is the real-time scenarios only. In the real time, we use the APIs to check the limits. We use the APIs to check the count. We use the APIs to create the record. Similarly, we can use the APIs to get the different properties of an object. This is kind of a real-time usage of using the Salesforce platform API. As of now, we have not created any platform APIs, but this is how we can go and use the... as of now, we have not created our own API. That will be doing in our next session. But this is how you can use the APIs provided by the Salesforce. Madhu asked a brief about the header. Again, Madhu, to understand the header, as I said, let me again navigate to that cheat sheet. There are different types of headers are available. According to the integration documentation that you have to perform, you have to go and add different types of header. As we are integrating with the Salesforce, for example, here we do have this type of header, right? So whenever anyone is making the integration with the Salesforce, for example, there's an Oracle system who is making the integration with the Salesforce. So what all parameters that they have to take care? They have to get the endpoint from this documentation. They have to understand what kind of method that you have to use, right? Here they have to go and set this header. Authorization is the header that they have to set. Every documentation, it will provide you the complete details, what kind of headers that you have to set. So if the Oracle is connecting with the Salesforce, they are using this authorization header only with the bearer token. Like this, we do have the multiple types of headers that you have to use according to the integration requirement. Yes, you can also use the put method, Pratik. Put method we use, it is same like the upsert operation that we do have. Upsert means in case the record is available, it will go and perform the update operation, or the record is not available, it will go and perform the insert operation. Similarly, we can also use the put operation as well. So if you follow this right here, you do also get the different types of methods are available. One of the method is also available as the put method. So yes, you can also use the put method here. But as per my knowledge, Salesforce Platform API, they does not support the put method, right? But in case you are creating your own API, definitely you can use the put method. Might be they are supporting, I'm not familiar whether the Salesforce Platform API, they do support the put method or not. As of now, I have not interacted with any of the platform API which does support the put method. So Sarla asked this question. Suppose we have to integrate the Salesforce with the weather API, right? Where does the Postman tool comes into the picture? So for example, if you have to integrate the Salesforce with the weather API, so where the Postman tool will come into picture? For example, let's say without implementing or without writing your code onto the Salesforce org, first you want to test whether the APIs that your developer have provided, whether it is working correctly or not, right? So what you can do, without writing the complete Salesforce logic or complete Salesforce class, you can go and put your endpoint, you can ask the method, you can set the different headers and check whether what type of output that weather API, what type of output that you are getting from the weather API, right? So you can understand the response from there, and accordingly you can go and build your own API into the Salesforce, right? Again, I'm repeating, we use the Postman only for the testing purpose. We use the Postman only for the testing purpose. In real time, if you have to make the integration from Salesforce to some another system, you have to go and write down the code in the Salesforce only. Can we perform the undelete operation through the Postman? As per my knowledge, I never used it, but we have to go and check the documentation whether we do have the API available for the undelete or not. So let's go and quickly try this out, as one of the friend asked this question. No, we do not have any APIs for the undelete operation, Prashant. So you cannot perform the undelete operation with the help of standard APIs provided by the Salesforce. You can definitely write down your own logic in your API REST resource, but Salesforce by default platform API does not provide that functionality. Yeah, I believe I have covered all the different questions that we do have in the chat box. Again, I want to thank you all for attending this session, for giving us your precious time, and I hope I have made the justice with all of your timing, and I have added a few learnings in your Salesforce journey. Thank you all. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Back to you, Sanjay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ankit, for sharing all the knowledge, and thank you all the attendees for being patient audience, and those who are watching the recording. So if you have any question, you can ask in the comment section, or you can just ask your question in the Telegram group. Right. So next session on integration, like part 4, will be done next week, Monday. Right. So till then,
Right.
whatever today Ankit demonstrated, so you can just practice, go through the recording and just implement. And I hope next week more demonstrations will be there. So next week we'll be completing 3 sessions, and then in total 6 sessions, all the like main concepts of integration will be covered. As Ankit told, like it is a vast topic, so we'll be trying to have all the concepts covered in 6 sessions, right? But if there is like more learning will be required, so I would request Ankit, like if he can share some links from where you can just do some practice, so that would be great.
Sure. Sure, I will.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
thank you Ankit for your time. Thank you everyone. See you on Monday.
Thank you all. Have a good time. Bye bye.